Good morning. I'm Police Chief Katrina Thompson, and on behalf of the women and men of the Winston-Salem Police Department, I want to welcome you all to the September 2020 Public Safety News Conference. Please join me in honoring our fallen officers for the months of August and September who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Patrolman Gurney L. Royale. End of watch, August 1st, 1941. Patrolman Royale was shot and killed with his own service weapon after he and his partner, Patrolman Paul Blackburn, responded to a disturbance call at 3rd Street and Church Street in front of the Lincoln Theater. The suspect was able to gain control of Patrolman Royale's weapon and fired it 5 times. The 4th shot struck Patrolman Royale in the head, killing him instantly. Before Patrolman Blackburn gained control of the suspect cut him severely on the neck with a knife. The suspect was taken into custody by Patrolman Blackburn and other officers. Patrolman Blackburn later recovered from his injuries. Patrolman Thomas Garland Anderson. End of watch, August 15th, 1927. Patrolman Anderson was involved in a motorcycle accident at 11th Street and Highland Avenue while responding to a vehicle accident on August 11th, 1927. He died from his injuries on August 15th. Patrolman Al Charles Kennard. On this date, September 9th, 1961, Patrolman Kennard was killed in a motorcycle accident while he was on patrol. The motorcycle left the roadway and struck a curb and a light pole, killing him instantly. Please join me for a moment of silence to honor all of our fallen officers and all our first responders across our nation who's paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. I'd like to take this time to thank the women and men of the Winston-Salem Police Department for their relentless sacrifices and dedication to the citizens of Winston-Salem. Your work does not go unnoticed. Thank you. One of our upcoming events includes our virtual promotional ceremony on September 24th, 2020. Next up from the police department, you will hear from Sergeant Batches, who will provide information on the rise in our traffic fatalities in Winston-Salem. He will be followed by Detective Barker, who will discuss phone scams. And then we will have Detective Lazuski, who will talk about the proper way to secure firearms in your home. After that, the Winston-Salem Police Department will be followed by the Winston-Salem Fire Department, and Division Chief Sharice Moore will be discussing the fire information. Sergeant Batches.
Good afternoon. I am Sergeant Dan Batches with the Winston-Salem Police Department's Traffic Enforcement Unit. We're going to talk about the unfortunate subject, traffic fatalities and traffic-related deaths that we've had this year. Last year, we ended the year with 17 as a total, which was down 12 from the previous year. And this year, we're at 19 already for the year. Just some statistics for you. until September, there was 11 traffic-related deaths that were occurring in the city. So this was on track with 2019 and was, you know, kind of a normal for the previous year. August came and we had 8. So of those total 19 that we have right now, 10 of them involved a vehicle that was capable of having a seatbelt on it. 50% of the subjects that were killed in these crashes were not wearing a seatbelt. Okay, so that outlines the importance of wearing your seatbelt at all times. That's a pretty big note to hit. Wear your seatbelt. Wear your seatbelt. 9 of these involved a moped, motorcycle, or ATV. I think it's important to note that ATVs are not authorized to be driven on city streets. So if that's something that's occurring, please contact the police department. Let us know so we can further investigate those incidents. Significant injury and death can occur from a four-wheeler or dirt bike that's driving on city streets. Of the 8 traffic crash fatalities that occurred in August, 50% of these were pedestrian related. Okay, so that's why we're talking about pedestrian safety and minding the crosswalks today. Of the total of the 19, 32% were speed that was believed to be cause of a factor for the crash, and 37% was believed to have drugs or alcohol as a factor of the crash. That's unacceptable. It's too much. Our traffic enforcement unit is out there. We're working hard. We're trying to reduce these serious injury and fatality numbers. Some assistance from the public in slowing down, using responsibility, and wearing your seatbelt goes a long way. So we can flip to the next one now. Get started. So we'll talk about the right-of-way. A lot of people get confused with the pedestrian. Who has the right-of-way? Is it the pedestrian that's in the roadway? Is it the pedestrian that's about to cross the roadway? Is it the pedestrian that's walking along the side of the roadway? Who has the right-of-way? Is it always the vehicle? Well, General Statute 20-155 outlines who has the right-of-way, and it's the driver of any vehicle upon a highway has the right-of-way unless there's a pedestrian in a marked crosswalk that is actively crossing the roadway. So you got to look at the difference between crossing, which is what's noted in general statute here, and about to cross or waiting to cross. If you're about to cross and you're looking both ways and you're saying, well, that car's far enough off, I might make it, use caution. Just yield to that vehicle, let that vehicle pass, and make sure it's clear so that you can get across safely. Go to the next one. Pedestrians are subject to traffic control signals, so we don't have a jaywalking law. A lot of people come to the city for events and things like that downtown, and the big question is, you go, oh, I'm going to jaywalk. Okay, we don't have a jaywalking law, but you must abide by the traffic control signals or a traffic control officer that's in the roadway. There's been a lot of near-miss incidents in the downtown area due to people seeing the hand or the do not walk sign and saying, well, there's no cars, I'm just going to come anyway. There's a lot of tall buildings, there's a lot of blind corners, so there's a lot of issues that need to be looked at from that point of view, that you're just not going to see them and they're going to come around the corner and you're not going to be in the right of way. Next one. General Statute 20-174 talks about crossing at other than crosswalks or walking along the highway. So if there's a sidewalk, use the sidewalk. All right, this gets into common sense. If there's a sidewalk, walk on the sidewalk. If there's not a sidewalk, which is not uncommon in certain areas of the city, yes, feel free to walk along the side of the roadway off to the shoulder as far as you can. Walk towards oncoming traffic. Okay, why? Why are we walking towards oncoming traffic? That seems silly. Okay, well, you're walking towards oncoming traffic because as a pedestrian, you're extremely maneuverable, and you'll see that vehicle coming from a long ways away. All right, so you have the opportunity to get out of the way. So what if there's not a crosswalk? What if there's a residential intersection where 2 roads come together and there's no marked crosswalk or anything like that? Utilize the area to cross that is most close to the intersection. So go to the intersection and then cross. That's where you'll have the right of way if you're crossing and a vehicle comes. If you're crossing at a location other than that, that's in between the 2 streets, again, yield to the vehicle that's oncoming, because that vehicle will have the right of way. At the bottom, it talks about drivers. You still have a duty to exercise due care, caution, and responsibility to pedestrians that are in the roadway. All right, so don't see somebody in the roadway, say, oh, I've got the right of way, and then continue on. You can continue to the next one. So pedestrian safety statistics. North Carolina reported 243 pedestrian fatalities in 2019. This was a 19% increase from 2017. And folks, it's easily avoidable. It's something that if you follow some simple steps and we're not in a hurry, we can easily avoid something like this. Currently, Winston-Salem, we're at a 400% increase from last year. Okay, we had 1 pedestrian fatality last year. We're on 4 right now, and it's not the end of the year. So it's time to start paying attention. You can go to the next one. A closer look at the fatalities in Winston-Salem. So 2018, rough year, you had 9 pedestrian fatalities. 2019, you had 1, and 2020, we're at 4 right now as of August. There's no rhyme or reason to these. There's no one thing that we can do better than the other. It's a collective effort that we have to put together to avoid pedestrian fatalities occurring. 100% of these have occurred outside of a crosswalk, basically crossing the road without yielding the right of way to a vehicle. These are some other statistics to look at. That's a lot of information up there. I'll kind of outline the important parts. So at the bottom, you have where the pedestrians are at fault. Okay, that's occurring a lot more than the driver being at fault. The other side of that, the right side of that, as you guys are looking at it, would be injuries that occur. Okay, injuries are extremely significant in a car versus pedestrian crash. The car is always going to win as far as injuries go. When you look at and I don't know if that's a good view for the camera, but when you look at the statistics on the left side, what's occurring with the drivers when the drivers are at fault is that it's a failure to yield the right of way when it does occur, or there's inattention. Okay, so let's start thinking about things like cell phones, infotainment systems, GPS systems, and things like that. Pull over to the side of the road and use your cell phone. Don't try to use your cell phone to text while you're driving on the road. It is acceptable in North Carolina to dial a phone number and make a phone call, but let's look at it with common sense. Is that the smart thing to do? I think it's smarter to just pull off the side of the road or use like a voice to text or a voice to call function, or say, hey Siri. So what are we doing to combat this stuff as a police department? What programs do we have in place to stop this sort of stuff? You know, are we sitting by and we're just doing nothing? Are we just letting the public take risk into their own hands, or are we being proactive about it? We're being extremely proactive about it. There's a myriad of programs that the police department is involved in, and that we've become involved in over the past year as well. One of these programs is Watch For Me NC. It's a citywide program. You can get a lot of information off of this at watchformenc.org. There's crash statistics, safety resources, school safety resources for the schools that are in person. There's 30 different partner communities across the state of North Carolina and police agencies that get together and work on what they like to refer to as the 3 E's. It would be education, which is what we're doing right now, community engagement, which we do through our community resources unit, as well as downtown bike patrol and the traffic enforcement unit, and then the enforcement aspect, which we all handle as patrol officers and the traffic enforcement unit. Other programs that we put forth are Bike Safe NC. This is not a bicycle program. This is a motorcycle safety program. Again, I go back to reference several motorcycle, moped, and ATV crashes have occurred. This highlights safe driving rider skills assessments that are free to the public. BikeSafeNC.com can get you more information. Traffic enforcement unit is running Bike Safe NC classes through November. If you have a large group or a riding club, give us a call, let us know. We'll accommodate you. We'll make room for you on a Saturday, and we'll come in and teach that class. It's extremely important to us. We partnership through the Governor's Highway Safety Program. We participate in campaigns such as seatbelt campaigns and checkpoints, LIDAR campaigns, DWI checkpoints, and other various traffic safety programs that are put out throughout the year through the Governor's Highway Safety Program. Downtown Bike Patrol does a bicycle helmet free giveaway to children, which is an extremely successful program. They run them through a bicycle rodeo and hand out free helmets and provide education to kids. We have child safety seat certified installers at the agency. If you have a child safety seat and you're not sure how to get it in your car, please come to the police department or dial the non-emergency number for the police department, and they will send somebody to the parking lot to assist you with that. We utilize crime analysis big time to look for trends, which we then in turn use for directed patrols, and traffic enforcement uses them for selective and statistical based enforcement throughout the city. We hit the high locations for crash and speed, and we can almost predict where the high locations for crash and speed are going to be, utilizing those folks. They're extremely valuable to us. And then speed signs and the data that we use from speed signs set up in different neighborhoods to assist the public as well. So we'll go over a few of the important safety reminders from today. I'll start out with for the pedestrians. Use the sidewalks. If the sidewalk's there, use the sidewalk. That's what it's for. If the sidewalk's blocked off, I understand. Walk on the shoulder of the roadway, yield to the oncoming vehicles. Good mix. This goes into what I said already. I got a little ahead of myself. Use the shoulders, face oncoming traffic. Why are we facing oncoming traffic? Because the vehicles are coming towards you. You're more maneuverable. You can get out of the way. Pay attention and stay alert. Don't become distracted. Perfect example, what I was talking about before, but this is for a pedestrian. All right, a lot of people are on their cell phones, or they like to run with the headphones on, or the Beats, or whatever the cool thing is now to put in your ears. You got to pay attention to what's going on around you. One, not just for vehicles, but for other crime that could be occurring around you as well. Just be aware and be alert of your surroundings and pay attention. Yep. Make eye contact with the driver. So if you're coming up to an intersection, let's say it's an unmarked intersection, look at the driver. That's going to tell you whether or not it's safe to go. If he acknowledges you and he sees you there, you're going to know whether or not it's safe to go. All right, look at his wheels as the wheels move, and then look at the driver. Make sure he's aware that you're there. Be predictable. Don't jump out and then change your mind and go back. Or me and my 6-year-old, I'll start going, he'll stay, then I'll have to go back, then he'll decide he wants to go, I got to yank him back. Be predictable, have a plan when you come up to an intersection. Be visible, wear visible clothing. Unfortunately, in 3 out of the 4 pedestrian-related deaths that we've had this year due to traffic crashes, people were not wearing visible clothing. Only in 1 instance was somebody wearing visible clothing, and he was at work. For drivers, look for pedestrians everywhere. You come up to an intersection, everybody looks for that car, and goes. Look for the pedestrian on the sidewalk, because they may not be paying attention to you, you're not paying attention to them, and then disaster strikes. Stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. In the crosswalk, you have to yield the right of way to the pedestrian. Fine examples, Polo Road up by Wake Forest. There's big yellow signs, students walking across, people don't stop. You've got to stop for anybody that's in the crosswalk. Yield the right of way to them. Never pass a stopped vehicle at a crosswalk. So if you look at the illustration here, you've got some people passing, you've got a vehicle stopped. If this was a 2-lane, one-way roadway, which it's not in that illustration, and somebody decided they're going to pass that SUV who's yielding the right of way to the pedestrians, they're not paying attention, they're going to hit a pedestrian. Be prepared while turning. Look through your turn. Don't be looking down at the radio, looking at the infotainment system, making your turn. Look through your turn and be aware of everything that's going on around you. Follow the speed limit. That goes back to the statistic that we said before, the 37%. It's too high. It's not anything to slow down. So just slow down. We're all going to get where we're going. Leave the house a little earlier if you need to. School zones, when and if school does return this semester or year, slow down in the school zones. As a note right now, I know there's been questions. Do I have to follow the speed limit in a school zone? Currently, school is in session, but it's not in session in person at the school, so no, there's not a necessity to follow the speed limit through the school zones right now. However, proceed with caution. Many of the schools are open for meals throughout the day that the students can go to. And I believe that will be it for me. Are there any questions? All right, I'll yield the right of way to who's up next.
Good afternoon. I'm Detective Barker. I'm with the Criminal Investigations Division's Financial Crime Unit. I'd like to speak to you just about a few scams that we've seen here recently. Most people are probably aware by now that many people are receiving phone calls. You may have gotten a phone call from, say, the IRS or one of those other scams saying that you owe money and you need to pay by gift card or something to that effect. One of the things that we've seen recently throughout the country, as well as here in Winston-Salem, are phone calls being made indicating that you have a warrant for your arrest. It comes from a spoofed phone number, which means they're able to duplicate our non-emergency number or local law enforcement non-emergency number, and they are also using actual officers' names. These are typically not legitimate phone calls. We are not going to contact you and tell you that you have a warrant for your arrest and you can pay to get out of it. That is not something we are going to do. We will handle a warrant for arrest like we always handle a warrant for arrest. We will make contact with you, take you before the proper judicial official. Typically, these scammers are asking for some form of payment. Here lately, it's been green dot cards. On the back of a green dot card, the Green Dot Corporation has put a little disclaimer in bright red not to use these if it's involving a scam. So they have seen, obviously, the uptick in it as well. Unfortunately, Google is our friend, but it is not our friend. You're able to Google our police non-emergency number. So if you as a citizen need it, that's great. You now know how to contact us without using 911, but that also allows a scammer to use that same phone number using these different apps that they can use to make it look like they're calling you from our non-emergency number. Also, obviously, there are certain interactions like today. You now have my name, and so does the scammer, once it's out on the media. So be cautious with those phone calls. If there is a question about it or something doesn't sound right, by all means, give us a call. If you're not trusting the phone call or you don't trust making contact with us because you feel like you might be getting scammed further, come meet with us. I'd be happy to meet with you down here at the police department. You can come down, you can speak with an officer in person, and you know that you're talking with somebody who is an actual official. Another instance that we've had here lately are a few rental scams. The gist of them is the same. They are typically houses for rent on Craigslist or one of the other similar sites, Facebook Marketplace, things like that. And they will set up a time to meet with you, but they never show up. Some of them have ways of gaining access to the house, or most people are really just kind of walking around the outside of the house, customer-wise, looking at the house. Then they fill out what looks like an official lease, and then they're actually sending payment. Typically, the individual's asking for some kind of, mobile banking, whether it be Cash App or something to that effect. Most of the time, that's not going to be a legitimate transaction. And a lot of the times, it'll be through text messages or phone calls. Some of the text messages that I have seen, as you start kind of reading through it, they may change their name. They may once say they're, Mark Barker, and then the next minute they say, well, I'm actually Bob Barker. And then they go back to, well, send this to Mark's Cash App. So as you start getting into that, if something doesn't seem right, it's probably not right. If you're not meeting with an individual in person, always verify that. Typically, if you're providing any kind of payment, most of the time you're going to meet with somebody or you're going to have that personal knowledge of somebody. It's going to be a friend, a coworker, whoever that you're making payments to, not a random individual. The biggest things with scams in general is depending on who you're dealing with. Again, if it's a family friend or someone to that effect, coworker, you know who that person is. If you have a random phone call, all right, you already should have a red flag up. You don't know who it is. Now they're saying they're some kind of an official. Now they're asking you to pay some money. Probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's a lot of information out there. Our website, wspd.org. You can go on that website, the ftc.gov. and the Department of Justice, North Carolina Department of Justice, all has good information about scams. There are numerous scams out there, numerous schemes out there, and they change daily. We receive reports daily that are different variations of the same scam and sometimes new scams that we haven't seen before. If you feel like you're a victim of a scam, please give us a call. If you have sent money or transferred money, contact your bank and make them aware that you believe that you've been involved in some kind of a fraudulent scheme to see what they can do to help you, and then contact local law enforcement. Up next will be Detective Lazuski, unless anybody has any questions. All right.
Good afternoon. I'm Detective Lazuski with the Criminal Investigation Division Burglary Unit. Briefly today, I just want to talk about the recent increase in auto break-ins and house break-ins where firearms are being stolen. So just some statistics. Over the past 6 months, with auto break-ins, 25 firearms are being taken from confirmed unsecured vehicles, and 5 firearms have been taken from confirmed secured vehicles. What we're seeing is that a lot of these firearms are being placed in cars that are not being locked. So basically the gist is don't leave your firearms in your cars. They're not as secure as you might think. Some safety tips for vehicle safety. Lock your car doors. Hashtag 9 p.m. Winston-Salem has a program that we are constantly telling people, don't leave firearms and other valuables in your vehicles. Like I said, they're not safe. Also, be aware of your bumper stickers, signs, flags, anything around your residence. Thieves and other sorts of criminals look for these things. NRA stickers, pro-Second Amendment stickers. They're looking for these because they know you most likely have firearms. Going into house break-ins, in the past 6 months, we have had 38 firearms taken from house break-ins. Not all of these are, I do not have the statistics for the locked, secured versus unsecured residences, but 38 firearms being taken from houses it's just too many. Again, hashtag 9 p.m. For Winston-Salem Police Department. Remove your guns from your vehicles, valuables from your vehicles, keys from your vehicles, and lock your doors. Hashtag 9 p.m. Residential safety tips, especially involving firearms. Utilize a gun safe, locking cabinet, strongbox, security case, or some other form of extra security for firearms. Locking them up in something where they're not just sitting in a closet or in an open area. Self-defense weapons should be stored in a location and manner in which should not be accessible to children. The side of a couch cushion, on top of the refrigerator, in a cabinet drawer somewhere. These are not safe places for children because they will get a hold of it and they will think it's a toy and accidentally use it. Firearms that are for recreational or for hunting purposes or something like that should be stored unloaded with ammo and magazines in separate areas from the firearm. If you're considering buying a gun safe, these are some things that you might want to look for. It protects against both theft and fire. 10-gauge steel body and a thicker gauge door, preferably plate steel. Box assembled with continuous welds, combination or electronic lock, easily concealable in your home, attachable to fabric of your home, i.e. floor or wall, and holds existing collection with room for more guns in the future. Essentially what that's saying is you want something that somebody's not going to be able to walk in, use a crowbar, and pry open. Something that you don't just leave your keys hanging on the wall next to it so they can grab the keys and unlock the door. Something that is heavy and can be attached to your floor, being bolted to the cement of your floor, or something of that nature. A new site we're trying to implement here is reportit.leadsonline.com. What this is being used through a system that us as burglary detectives already use. It's free to the citizens. It's a property inventory system. It has proactive tools to easily catalog your information and your valuables. It can record pictures as well, and it stores it all there, very simple on your computer and on the website. And again, it is free. Additional recommendations. Make sure you're keeping records of all your serial numbers, your make, model, and caliber of firearms. Take pictures of your guns with any attachments or significant identifiers. And again, if you will, put it on the reportit.leadsonline.com. And be vigilant. No specific area of the city is being targeted. This is happening all over the city. And that's it for me. Next up.
Good afternoon. I'm Division Chief Sharice Moore with the Winston-Salem Fire Department, and on behalf of our fire chief and all the men and women of the Winston-Salem Fire Department, I'm here to present our line of duty deaths for the month of September and October. William G. Hobson, death September 15th, 1938. On September 15th, 1938, Fire Chief William G. Hobson was on duty at Fire Station Number 2. The veteran of the fire department became the first Winston-Salem firefighter to die while on duty when he suffered a heart attack. Hobson was well-liked chief who had risen up through the ranks. In 1912, he began his career as a firefighter and went to serve the department for 26 years. He has served as fire chief for 6 years upon his death. The board appointed M.G. Brown to become the new fire chief on October 1st, 1938. James Buck Alton Bashirs, death September 30th, 1986. On September 30th, 1986, James A. Buck Bashirs became the 10th line of duty death to occur. Bashirs was an engineer at Engine Company Number 10 and had driven a reserve pumper to Salem Lake to test the pump. He was followed by Captain Von Bud Barrier and firefighter Bobby Adams in the first line pumper. With both vehicles scheduled for pump tests, Bashirs hooked up the 2.5-inch hose while Barrier and Adams hooked up the hard suction. They noticed that Bashirs was sweating profusely as he attempted to put the truck in pump gear, but was unable to do so. Bashirs collapsed as he got out of the truck. Barrier and Adams helped Bashirs to the tailboard of the truck and then called for EMS assistance. Bashirs later died of a massive stroke. He has served the department for 27 years. John Bryant Goforth, death October 29th, 1956. On October 29th, 1956, Chief J.B. Goforth became the 6th firefighter to be killed in the line of duty death. An alarm was received from the box on 14th and English Streets at 5:30 p.m. Upon arrival, Engine 1 found a 2-story brick apartment building with a fire in an upstairs apartment. Chief Goforth and his driver, James L. Parham, arrived shortly after the pumper. Chief Goforth was on the balcony and ordered firefighter Charlie Adams to cut a hole in the floor. After the hole was cut, firefighter Adams came out of the apartment and found Chief Goforth lying at the bottom of the stairs. Parham and Adams tried several times to resuscitate the chief, but when their efforts proved useless, they loaded him into the command car and rushed him to the city hospital. Chief Goforth died on the way to the hospital as a result of a heart attack. The cause of the fire was later determined to be children playing with matches. Would you all join me with a moment of silence? Thank you. I would like to now turn it back over to our police chief, Katrina Thompson.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Winston-Salem Police Department or the Winston-Salem Fire Department? Yes.
Chief, do you have any update from last night in terms of any incidents between protesters and non-protesters?
So the question that is on the floor is, do we have any updates for, in light of the event, the presidential visit from last night regarding protesters versus those that were here to support the presidential visit? And no, I am very proud to say that the women and men of the Winston-Salem Police Department, in conjunction with all of our first responder partners, both federal, state, and local, did a phenomenal job in this event. Anytime we have an event such as a dignitary visit to our area, it is always our goal to get the dignitary into the city and let them do their business and get them out of the city as safely as possible. And that happened without a hitch at all yesterday. Of course, we did have protesters who were exercising their right to free speech, and we had everything going on without incident. Any other questions? I'd like to just remind you that the next Public Safety News Conference will be on November 10th, 2020. Please note that that will be on a Tuesday, as November 11th is Veterans Day on a Wednesday. Thank you and have a good evening.